just be aware of putting the stuff on the table. How they make
okay.
over there. So. And normally what we'll do is with the Cards Against Humanity, and you can probably actually do one with us if you want, since you understand the game. Normally we'll just ask you one of the black cards, and then just 6 options, and whatever you pick, and that's normally what it is. And if you want to do one back at us, that'll be cool, because we've never had a guest ask us one before. So.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, when you mentioned Cards Against Humanity, I was like, how do they plan on playing?
well,
if I don't have the cards.
Yeah, well, what we'll do is sometimes we'll take pictures of them and send them to people, or we'll just say, hey, this is the black card, and then these are your options. Gotcha. And then they just pick an option from that. So
I just happen to have the game anyway. So.
All right, cool. So we'll go ahead and get this started. Everything's already recording, so we can just edit through whatever. We'll go ahead and open the show, bring you in, and that'll be that. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Happy Hour podcast. Of course, I'm Ray.
This is Matt. Hey.
And we're sitting here tonight with the lovely Kendra James. Kendra, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm very well. Thanks for having me.
Now, we have been looking forward to having you on for a long time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Actually, we're extremely excited because we're looking at you on video, and you have my personal second favorite beer in the world, Samuel Adams Oktoberfest, right behind you on your mantle. And I saw when you went to Key West recently, I saw on Twitter, and I was like, oh man, she drinks Oktoberfest. I was like, all right, that's it. Definitely the beer of the week. So we might as well get into our beer of the week this week, and that is Samuel Adams Oktoberfest. That's my second favorite. Kendra James is drinking it herself. So nice little plug for Samuel Adams Oktoberfest. Go out, pick some up, drink as much as you can possibly handle until you fall on the floor. And let's just get right into it. So you do a lot of fetish scenes. Everything we looked up, fetish and cosplay, it's a mix of that. How did you get into the whole fetish side of things? Was that just something that you kind of migrated into? Was it, your plan on getting into that right off the jump?
I didn't have a plan. There was no plan coming in. So I entered the adult industry as a pro dominatrix when I was about 19 years old. And I grew up in San Francisco, and I feel like in the late 90s, there was a lot of sort of goth, industrial fetish stuff going on. So I would find myself in different clubs, meeting different people, and ended up meeting somebody who sort of introduced me to the commercial dungeons in the San Francisco Bay Area. I thought it sounded interesting, so I ended up working in one of the dungeons for several years, which is still there, Fantasy Makers. So yeah, I kind of entered the adult industry that way, and then things sort of progressed. I met photographers and other performers, models, pro doms, of course. So I kind of fell into it that way, and I did not have a plan whatsoever. You're 19 years old trying to make money for school, and things just sort of, well, in my case, I feel like things just sort of snowballed. And I worked for kink.com for several years. I was a model for them, and then I also was a PA, and back then PA meant editor and sometimes photographer and booking models and all these different things. So I gained a lot of experience both on camera and off camera working for them. And things have just kind of progressed from there over the years. It's like 22 years ago now.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Jesus. So you have been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
With the dungeons, was that something that was just people just showed up to that? Was that something where people would pay?
Yeah. How do I get my membership?
Yeah. So the place where I started, Fantasy Makers, they had ads in the back pages of newspapers, the local, like East Bay Express, or what was it? What was the San Francisco paper? San Francisco Daily. I don't know. But Yeah, we had ads in various places, and you called and made an appointment. It was not just you show up at this place and see what happens. No, you basically called and said, here are my interests and who's available, and we kind of matched people up based on their interests. There were a number of women working in the space, a lot of people with different specialties, different things that they were interested in doing. Some people were more adept at bondage, some people were more adept at ball busting. So we really tried to work together and match up the person, the mistress with the client. And so since then, I still do pro-dom sessions. Now, of course, I'm independent, working by myself. I share a space with another mistress here, Goddess Brianna. But yeah, people send me emails. I ask them a series of questions to sort of vet them. We have a brief chat on the phone. And if our interests align, then yeah, I take them on as a client. So yes, it is something that you pay for too.
No, I can't help it. As soon as you said it, it just dive bombed into my brain. You mentioned ball busting,
dude. I was just gonna say, how do you put that on a resume?
Like I mean, that's
an adept ball buster.
And we've seen a lot. Like we're the kind of guys. We've seen a lot of porn. We've seen a lot of weird stuff. But I don't think I've ever seen a video that included ball busting. So
No.
if you can kind of describe, like, let's say someone comes to one of those dungeons, they're like, okay, we want to get ball busting done. How does that work? Is it the kind of thing where you put their balls on like a tree stump and you just smack it with a croquet bat or something like that?
Oh my God. So many different ways to do it. I have some people who have known since childhood that this is something they enjoy and have experienced. I don't know how exactly it's come about, but it's come about. And yeah, I have clients who have known this was their kink since childhood and have sought it out since. And then other people who have seen videos and like the fantasy of it. I had a client last week, in fact, who was like, oh my God, I want this ball busting. I want it intense. I want to be tied down so that I can't move, legs open. And I just want you to, no holds barred, kick me as hard as you can. I don't know how long I'll be able to take it, but this is my fantasy and this is what I want to do. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to be so irresponsible that I just pulverize his nuts. Obviously, this is a fantasy he hasn't really tried before. So I'm going to try and ease him into it, even though he's saying, I just want you to go for it. I know better than to just go for it. Yeah. The fantasy is there, but the physical limitations are also there. And he, after a few minutes,
all right, you're ready.
After a few minutes, he was like, I can't. We did other stuff. I was like, that's what I thought. So some people enjoy the fantasy of it and others really actually get off on it. And
so I'm guessing in the 22 years that you've done this, you have seen a lot of grown men in tears, because I can't imagine, like, especially like what you said, like you win it. He was like, no, please stop. And I'm sure, probably some women too. And, that's going to get me into one thing that I saw, one of your scenes that I saw. You had, you did a video where you had a guy and you had his balls all tied up and you were burning him with cigarettes. And I saw that. And I felt that. I felt the pain through that video. I just sat there and I watched and I was like, yeah, like I honestly, I'm like, I'm terrified of this woman. Like I like, all these things I've seen. Like, dude, I
know. Yeah. Like when I first saw that we were getting her, I was like, this is really cool. I don't know whether to be terrified or what. But all I know is I really did look forward to this interview. I was like, oh man, we need to talk to Dick.
And with that, with scenes like that, with the the burning of the testicles, stuff like that, how does that come to be? I guess do the studios just call you and go, hey, we want to do this scene, or it sounded like you've done a lot, so I'm sure you're probably more than willing to do it. You're probably like, all right, yeah, sign me up. I'll be there with all my stuff in 10 minutes.
It's a job, and you do what the job requires. I think when you're talking from a BDSM aspect and something so niche and so specialized, obviously you have to find performers who will do that. You're not going to get a random porn performer to be like, hey, cool, burn me in the nuts with the cigarettes. Like, that's not your average adult performer. So when you're talking about something so specific like that, companies are seeking out people who enjoy it and who want to be there and who have those specific limitations, who want to be tied up, who want to be burned with cigarettes. My first scene back since the pandemic was with a company called Club Dom, who's very much known for, scenes like this. And they, it was done with two guys who are in the fetish scene. They're fans themselves, and their clients, they see mistresses on a regular basis. So when Club Dom calls them and says, hey, are you available for this? They're like, yeah, sure, because that's what they're into. So porn is very different than fetish in that regard, I think.
Yeah, and we noticed that with the videos, that there is a difference in a lot of that. And with that, when you do your scenes, do you prefer being the one doing the dominating, or do you prefer being dominated in some of those scenes? Because we noticed it was a mix. Like, it was either you doing some of the stuff, or people would be doing stuff, to you, or you'd be tied up, or what have you.
It's definitely changed over the years. So, like I said, I entered the industry as a pro dom and kind of went from there. And I feel like, especially in the early days, sort of figuring out who you are, what you want to do, and also just sort of looking for a paycheck, I just tried to be versatile and work with as many companies as I could, doing different things within my limitations. And I would never call myself a submissive ever, but it's fun to get tied up once in a while. And I used to do a lot more sub work and a lot more bondage work. And now I still do, but I work with very specific companies that I've developed a relationship with over the years. Jim Weathers, Bondage Cafe, like, he's a very good friend of mine. So, and he takes beautiful, beautiful pictures. So of course, if I'm in LA, I'm going to call Jim up and be like, hey, I'm in town. Do you want to shoot? So I know that the end result is going to be beautiful. So I sub less now, but I still will with certain companies.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. And then, of course, if I'm shooting my own content, I definitely still have a fan base that wants to see me tied up. So that gets incorporated into the cosplay stuff and like the silly, kitschy fetish videos that I shoot. But that's typically with other women as well. I have an easier time subbing to women than I do to men. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
And with that, I noticed. What do you think? Because I saw a video that involved these items right here. When you do your videos, what do you think some of the most extreme tools you have used or have used on you are? Like, I saw a video with pussy clamps, for example, which stretch. So, I saw that. I'm like, oh, so, with stuff like that, what is some of the more, like, stuff like that you've used that you think are, you sit there and you see it? Like, was it something that you saw, and when you saw it for the first time, you're like, this is going to be interesting, or this might just hurt a little bit?
I mean, I've definitely had both thoughts, like, it looks interesting. What can we do with that? That's kind of cool. I know it might hurt, but visually it might be really beautiful. And then I've had other experiences where I'm like, nope, that looks painful. That doesn't look enjoyable at all. I don't think it'll look good. Like,
yeah,
that just looks sucky.
So, like,
like,
so
there.
what line is there, like, that you won't cross as far as this goes?
A line that I won't cross?
Yeah. Like, what do you think is
many.
too far?
It's on her face. There's not very many lines there.
I mean, I don't I don't do boy-girl work. I've never.
Yeah, we have noticed that you don't do boy girl work,
Yeah. I
and I mean it's funny that she saw you could see it on her face that she was just kind of like,
Yeah.
what line would not cross?
There's like nothing that I won't do.
I wouldn't say nothing that I won't do. It's just you take things as they come, and I mean, there's not anything that really comes to mind that I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen. Like, I don't know. If you were to throw something at me, I'd probably think about it. Like, yes or no, is this gonna happen? Of
Okay.
course, anything causing permanent damage, anything,
Yeah.
Well,
you know.
yeah. Now, so I'm just going to throw this one out there since you do cosplay. Are you familiar with Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah.
Okay. Could I get you to dress up like Vegeta and just like beat the shit out of me?
Sure, why not? Why not?
And since we're on the
Find me the costume, send me the costume, and yeah, that's on.
Awesome.
since we're on the cosplay stuff, we see you do a lot of cosplay. I noticed a lot of your videos are Batwoman. You do a lot of Batwoman videos. And one of the ones I saw, you did a video with Anastasia Pierce.
Mhm.
And it was you as Batwoman and she was Catwoman. And when you do what do you prefer to cosplay as the most? What do you think? Is it Batwoman? Is it just kind of, because it seems like you like, you're into, that kind of stuff. So with that, what do you think is your favorite out of all the scenes you've done, or you think you've done the most with?
I definitely do Batwoman and Poison Ivy the most. Obviously, the red hair works for both characters. A friend of mine, another studio years ago, well, they still do superhero videos, cosplay videos, but like 10 years ago, we started talking about characters and what was a character that might be good for me to start shooting myself and really start going in this direction, because I had shot superhero and cosplay for other people, but I had never really implemented it in my own work. So yeah, we started chatting about it, and he was like, you know what, Batwoman, no one's ever done Batwoman. She's like a minor character, not a lot of people know about her, but she was one of the first female characters who was actually written as a lesbian. So I was like, oh, cool, like an actual out lesbian character in the comic book world, red hair, she's kick-ass, but she has problems. Like, she's still a dark character. Like, she still is a fucking alcoholic and has family issues and all this. So I was like, I can do that. And yeah, like made the costume and just started shooting it. And I swear to God, mainstream has like, I feel like they stole it back from me. The TV show and
Yeah, that TV show just came up where they had Batwoman.
I'm like, you've been watching porn, haven't you?
Yeah.
Because Batwoman was a character that nobody paid attention to. And then like Comic-Con San Diego, several years in a row, I would show up as Batwoman and everyone takes pictures and like interviews on the news channels and whatever. And there were companies that, like toy companies that saw me there and like ran up and gave me figurines, like Batwoman figures that were just launching, like, oh my God, Batwoman, like giving me stuff to pose with. So, and then I met Jeremy Hahn, who had been drawing Batwoman. I met him at a convention and we started chatting and take some reference pictures and whatever. So I'm like, I feel responsible for the sudden rise in Batwoman. Like, it was
sudden emergence of
me. Yeah, so my husband just brought this in. I was at Comic-Con San Diego.
Oh, that's pretty badass.
And it's
2015, I think. And the toy company that did this, like they had just launched it. And they had the prototype there. And the guy, like I was walking through and the guy ran up and was like, oh, Batwoman. This little tiny Japanese guy, oh, Batwoman. And like handed this to me to pose with. It was like, okay, cool. And I like a couple months later, I got one in the mail. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
awesome.
yeah. I was actually going to bring that up. If you've ever been to somewhere like Comic Con before, and if has anyone actually noticed who you were?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's
I
the thing. There's that niche. There's that niche that's out there that people watch those videos with this people, the performers that dress up like superheroes. And correct me if I'm wrong. You have two different Batwoman costumes. I believe out of the photos I saw, you have a purple one and you have the black and red one. I'm not as big on DC, so I could be wrong. I'm a Marvel guy, so don't hate me for it. But is that what it is? You have to. It looks like it's more of a classic Batwoman costume
So
and
there's,
new school Batwoman costume.
yeah, so Batwoman is the black and red, and then Batgirl would be the purple. So I also do, yeah, the Batgirl, which is Batgirl is the more naive, the younger, more naive, Jim Gordon's daughter, whereas Batwoman is a grown ass woman who has a drinking problem and is a lesbian. So yeah, two different characters.
Yeah, and it's funny that you brought up that you do Poison Ivy and Batwoman because there's a scene that I saw that actually had one of our previous guests from 2 weeks ago that you did a scene with, Lauren Phillips. She
Oh
was
yeah,
Poison Ivy. Yeah, she was Poison Ivy, and you were Batwoman. And I
yeah.
saw it, and I was like, I'm like, she worked with Lauren. And I'm like, all right, cool. And we were talking about some of that stuff with her too. And then when I saw it, I put it. I'm like, oh man, that's pretty cool. They've worked together. And also, there's a scene that I saw, which I in the wrestling business we use a word. It's called pop, which means you get really excited. I popped for it myself, and it was it was a Roger Rabbit scene, and it was Jessica Rabbit, and you were Roger Rabbit, and I was like, oh, this is just great because growing up with that movie,
Yeah, I love that movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
I have the costume and I've only used it like twice, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I need to pull it out and use it more. So yeah.
Now, with that, when you do your stuff, I would imagine there's safe words. Is there any specific safe word that you use that's your favorite, or is there any crazy
Pineapple.
safe word? Like, do you sit there and tell someone, be like, you're gonna say avocado when we're done? Like,
Pineapple. No, I mean the standard would be yellow and red.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I've heard that
Gotcha.
before.
Standard, pretty typical. If you want to get silly with it, and if you have somebody who, a regular somebody who very well, like maybe you have a different safe word, maybe you have a safe word in public where you guys know you can communicate. It's just the two of you and you know what you're talking about. But typically, like yellow and red, yellow would be like, take a little step back, slow it down, and then red is hard stop. Because if you're yelling, oh my God, stop during a scene, it could actually be part of the scene. So you hear red, that's it. You know that things need to like take a break immediately. Something needs to be discussed and stopped. And yeah. I also use mercy. Mercy would be like yellow, just like step it back, slow it down. So yeah, not as exciting as avocado.
You could always mess with them too. And when you're dressed up like Batwoman, it could be Batman. And then they're just sitting there seeing you as Batwoman. And then it's just kind of, I don't know what to do.
So, changing gears real quick. I saw, I don't know, because I stalked I guess it was one of your social media accounts. Yeah,
well,
I'm a stalker.
wait,
I
yeah.
don't care. I stalk people. No, but I saw on your, I think it was Twitter, that one of your friends from like, I don't know, old friends, posted something from like 20 years ago, and I don't know, it looks like it was from like Ozfest, I guess. So. Mm-hmm. I pegged you right away as a metal fan. I love metal. I'm a big metal fan.
Yeah,
but I also noticed it looked like you. Did you party with Pantera?
So I toured with Ozfest for like 3 years. I did work in the music industry between 1999 and 2002 mostly. My husband is a sideshow performer, and when we met one very drunken evening, 2 days after my 20th birthday. When we met and we started dating, he taught me some sideshow tricks. So I started doing like walking on broken glass. I had a couple of bullwhips made and I started doing bullwhip tricks. I learned how to swallow swords, except I was too poor to buy swords. So I used screwdrivers and crowbars. I mean, if I'm going to spend money, it was on the bullwhips. Those were a lot of money. There was not much left over for swords. So yeah, bullwhip, target bullwhips, dancing on broken glass. We also did a broken glass wrestling kind of show.
Picture that.
When I would have another girl with me who was comfortable wrestling on broken glass. And yeah, sword swallowing. What else? Oh, eating light bulbs. I've done the staple gun trick. I've done like hook suspensions a couple of times, but got a little nervous with that. Like many scars. But yeah, so anyhow, we started touring with Ozfest in 1999. We did like half the tour in 99, and then they brought us back the next 3 years. Yeah, like the next 3 years. And then in between, we also toured. We also did, other tours. But yeah, we toured with Pantera, Rob Zombie, Slipknot.
Oh, that's nice.
Methods of Mayhem, which was Tommy Lee's band. So yeah, some of the pictures I posted the other night are with Stephen Perkins and the singer for Methods of Mayhem. But yeah, and then Philip, singer for Pantera. Philip also had a haunted house in New Orleans, the House of Shock. So after we did that first tour with them in 2000, after we did that first tour with them in 2000, Philip suggested that we come out to New Orleans and do House of Shock. So we ended up doing that until they closed in 2018.
So House of Shock was an everyday thing then. It wasn't just a Halloween thing.
It was the month of October.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the month of October. So every October we were in New Orleans and doing the haunted house. So, but yeah, so a few years in the music industry and then haunted house for like 18, 19 years. And yeah. So these old pictures resurfaced and I'm happy she found them because honestly, in like 3 years on the road, I never really took any pictures. Yeah. I always thought like, oh, it would be disrespectful to like invade. I don't know. Everybody was always drinking and it was like, ooh, do we really want to take pictures of all this bad behavior? Would it be disrespectful or invasive? Yeah, so I didn't take any pictures, but she did. And now I'm like, yay, I'm so glad you did because now there's like photographic evidence of the silliness.
And with that, like I'm kind of
go. You are being banished, my dear. Banished.
Actually, if he wants to come in, he can tell us about some of the sideshow stuff if he wants.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. But no, with that, it's the kind of thing that with me, I did pro wrestling for 21 years. And, I was always like, I'm glad I have photos of certain things, but there's also certain times where I would have a certain match and it'd be one of the best matches I would have in my career. And I'll be like, nobody recorded this. So, I would sit there and I would go back or something would randomly emerge from when I first started, like, from like 18 years ago. I'll be like, oh man, I didn't even know this existed. Like a fan recorded it. And it's like, oh, I'm so glad I was able to see this. So stuff like that, when you're able to track stuff like that down, that's special, especially when you've been able to float around as much as you have and all that. And it's hilarious because she's getting so mad at her husband.
He keeps like because you mentioned wrestling and like
if he wants to come in, he can come in. That's perfectly fine.
Big part of our show, we have wrestling.
Tell him that he'll take over entirely.
We had Jake the Snake Roberts on a few weeks ago, so he was one of our guests. That was really fun. And actually, with stuff like that, like you said, you did wrestling on glass with other girls. So with that, did you ever get into a situation where anybody ever approached you from pro wrestling?
It was I say wrestling on broken glass. It was two girls who didn't know what the hell they were doing, rolling around, trying not to cut the piss out of themselves. I mean, we were not good wrestlers. Don't let me fool you with like wrestling on broken glass. We definitely we scared wrestlers. Who was it that came out?
Dudley Boys.
Oh, the Dudley Boys came out.
Oh,
I think it was the Dudley Boys who came out, and they were like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And who was? Now I have to ask him a question. Damn it! On Black Label's bus. Jericho. So I have to say, like, one of the only times I've been starstruck, and I toured with huge bands. Like, we toured with Sabbath, who I'm going to disappoint you in a minute with that, but we were hanging out with Zach Wild. We were on Zach's bus, on the Black Label Society bus, and I was kind of bored. I was like, okay, I'm going to go inside and see what's going on, who's on stage right now, whatever. And I go to walk off the bus, open the door, and Chris Jericho is standing there, like just about to knock. And at the time, I was watching a lot of wrestling, and I was like, oh my God, it's Chris Jericho. Like, my inner monologue was like, holy shit, Chris Jericho is at the door. He's about to knock. He's coming on Zach's bus. Oh shit, it's fucking Chris Jericho. He's on their bus with like a guitar god, like Mike Inez. I'm on a tour bus with like these huge rock stars, and I'm like, oh whatever, I'm so bored. Chris Jericho. Oh shit. I was like, I opened the door and was like, come on in. Oh no, yeah, we heard you knock. I was just answering the door. Like, meanwhile, he hasn't even knocked yet. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna go sit right back down. And I basically was like, little puppy, like, Chris Jericho's on the bus. Oh my God. I don't know why. I was like super starstruck. Like,
now would you still be the same way today?
I've been starstruck.
Would you still be the same way today if you saw Jericho?
Probably not. Probably not. But at the time, I was like, little fangirl.
Yeah, and it's fun to have stuff like that, because I have my people also that I would do that with, and it's weird. As much as I've been in the wrestling world, I've been able to wrestle Jake the Snake Roberts, Doink the Clown, a few other guys, and you kind of desensitize yourself of people. You're used to being in locker rooms with guys like the Sandman and big name guys, and also the Happy Hour originally was a TV show. So we interviewed all kinds of porn stars. We had Sonny Sandoval from POD, all that. So it's very easy for me, with stuff like this, to get on and just go and talk to someone. So, but every so often,
the POD guys, we toured with them too.
On their first big tour.
On their first big tour, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and with that, like, it's just the kind of thing that eventually you get that one person where you're just kind of like, like my mind's blown that. I'm talking to this person, and that's just hilarious that Jericho was just standing there with his hand up. You're just, hi, and I'm sure Jericho's probably like, yep, this is an everyday occurrence. How long ago was that? Because that might have been around the time when he was starting Fozzy.
I think it was. I want to say it was like 2005 or 6.
He was just starting Fozzy.
Okay.
Fozzy.
Okay, sweetheart?
No.
You can either sit down over here or you can go in another room.
All right, and what we're going to do real quick is we're going to take a break. We need to get a word from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back with Kendra James, and we're going to play Ode the Humanity with Kendra James. We'll be right back. All right, and we can just keep on rolling because I just had to do that so we could cut away. So what we'll do, is we already have a pre-drawn card, and we'll read each one over. And then you just let us know which one you think is the best, and that's how we do it. So go ahead and bring us back in, and then.
No way.
You look like Kyle Turley.
My husband says you look like Kyle Turley.
You know what? I get a lot Kevin Owens because of my size and all that. And when I let my beard grow out, like if I were to take my hat off, I get Kevin Owens all the time, and I feel like I missed the ball. I was like, I should have been his angry younger brother, Ray Owens, and just did that and ran with it, and made some money. So
yeah, we drank. You're talking about wrestling. We drank with the Godfather.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I
We
forgot about
actually-
that.
it
It was a
was-
New Year's Eve.
No,
Was
no. We were
No.
at the Rainbow in LA, hanging out with Be Real of Cypress Hill,
Mm-hmm.
and The Godfather was with him when he was still with
Oh,
WWE.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, who was the guy we spent New Year's Eve with down here?
Norman Smiley.
Norman Smiley.
Norman
That's
Smiley.
good stuff. When we come back, would you guys mind talking about that once we do the intro back in?
She can talk it. She'd talk about it.
I don't recall very well the rainbow incident, because the rainbow, there was always so much going on and people coming.
All you have
and
to say is we were hanging out with Be Real. He was hanging out with B. So that
Name
means there's a lot
dropping.
there's a lot of marijuana there.
Okay.
All right. Hey guys.
Banned.
We're on break,
That's
so we're not
the
going to talk
husband
about
who's banned.
I mean, we can,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean,
All right, so here we go. We're going to go back into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Happy Hour podcast. Of course, I'm Ray. I'm here with Matt. We're here with Kendra James, and we're going to get into our Ode to Humanity segment. And Matt, you want to read the card that we picked out for Kendra? I think it kind of makes sense.
So, yeah, this is really fitting. So,
Wait, I have to deal myself a few cards. How many is it? 6 or 7?
Do 6. Actually, yeah, let her deal herself some
Okay,
cards. She can do
sure.
it from hers. That works out great.
All right. I shuffled a little bit. Let's see. All right. I feel like
We're legitimately playing Cards Against Humanity now. Normally, we can't do it this way.
what can I say? I'm a depraved human being as well. So
okay, so our black card here is what's my secret power?
I have some good cards for this, guys. If I really want to, kill myself here. Oh man, I do. I feel like I have some good cards. What is my secret power? Let's say swiftly achieving orgasm.
Nice.
That would be
Nice.
an awesome superpower. I'd love to have that superpower.
Yeah. And what we're going to do is actually, for the first time ever on the show, Kendra James has Cards Against Humanity. So we're going to have her draw a black card for us.
Oh, okay.
And out of the cards we have in front of us, we're going to do one of these. And actually, Matt, if you want, do you want to agree on one, or do you want to pick one up? Yeah, we'll agree one. All right, cool.
All right, let's see what I've got here. What did Vin Diesel eat for dinner?
Oh. Huh. I would say that one probably makes the most sense.
Okay. Let's go.
We're going to go with scrotal frostbite.
There you go.
I mean, because we had all kinds of different ones. Like we had throwing a virgin into a volcano. He can't eat that. Slapping a racist old lady. He can't eat that. You know. Oh man. And we already asked a couple of fan questions. We're gonna get into another one. And one of the fans asked, how long have you kept somebody in a chastity?
I saw that on Twitter today. It's like, let me think about that. I think the longest I've kept somebody in chastity is like 2 months.
2 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy.
Mean or not mean enough? I can't decide.
And that's the thing.
He must have been really bad.
What's hilarious is you do all these scenes and you're like, he must have been really bad. And Matt, I saw on Twitter earlier, apparently you try to save a little baby duckling. Yeah. I saw that on Twitter, and I'm a big animal person.
You do have a soul then.
Wow, man. First you stalk her, and then you're like, oh, you do have a soul then.
Fucking gingers, man.
Now the duckling, was that in your backyard, or was that when you were in Key West when you
No,
came?
my house is on the water. I say I'm on the water. It sounds like I'm on the beach or something. I live on a canal. So we have like families of ducks that come into our backyard all the time. We have tons of birds. Yeah, various birds. We've had manatees in the backyard. But yeah, we have little duck families that come and hang out. And this morning, we found a little baby duckling and no mama around, no family, like no other ducks in the yard. And this little baby had like one eye closed and he was getting covered by ants and he's obviously sick. So we scooped him up and we were trying to find like a bird rescue, animal rescue, wildlife rescue, whatever. And things are either not open today or they're not answering phones or whatever. And actually there's a woman a couple blocks away from us that has like a wildlife sanctuary at her house.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, she mostly does like iguanas, cockatoos, parrots, things like that. But we went knocking on her door, like, hey, do you know anything about ducks? And she doesn't, but she was like, well, it's a bird, so let's try and give him some Pedialyte, some water, try and feed him. But he just wasn't. Yeah. He wasn't going to make it. He probably was abandoned because he was sick or injured or, but we tried. We tried to save him and he just kind of expired. Right. So we buried him under the tree in the backyard.
Aw. Yeah. Well, see, the thing is with that is a duck. But now, if you would have saved like a seagull, perhaps, did you know that seagulls never forget a face?
What?
They live for 15 to 20 years and they never forget a face.
Yeah. See, here's the thing. We just went to the ocean down here in Maryland, and we're driving up there. It's a 3-hour drive, and his wife's looking up. Apparently, they fed the seagulls in Delaware,
which is illegal.
Yeah, which is illegal. So they were looking up. They're like, oh, "Is it illegal?" And she came across a Google thing that literally says seagulls never forget a face. And we're driving. We're like, we need to know all about this. Like what? Like so when we feed a seagull,
like look at me, look at me.
Yeah. So that became when he tapped me. I was like, what are you gonna? And he tapped me on my leg, and then he did it. And the whole thing is when he said seagull, that became our thing all weekend. We would see the seagulls. So remember, whenever a seagull flies, lands next to you, he may have seen you before, because they never forget a face.
They can also imitate you too. Like they can stomp their feet and stuff.
Yeah.
They're actually pretty smart birds.
Yeah, so we spent a good time looking up seagull facts. And actually a lot of birds are kind of like that. So that little duckling might yeah. So way to just derail. Now you do a lot of the cosplay stuff. Mm-hmm. And we see behind you is the little skull guy holding on to the beer. So I'm going to take a wild guess that you like Halloween.
Man, you want to see? Okay, what have I got going on here?
That's fucking sweet.
So, I mean, granted, this is actually Krampus right here.
Yeah.
But unless you know who Krampus is or what Krampus is, like,
we know who Krampus.
Why does she have a demon head in her house?
Right.
It's actually Krampus. And then, of course, we have a lot of just weird fucking artwork, calling Christian faces, and I don't know. Our house is like a little museum of
we did a freak show.
Fucking weird shit. And I mean, we did a freak show. So there you go. It goes with like the freak show aspect of life, I suppose.
With Halloween, do you guys do a lot of couples costumes? Do you guys dress up for Halloween and all that?
So, I mean, when we were in New Orleans every year, we were doing the haunted house. So of course we're dressed up for the haunted house. My husband does his sideshow character is the Reverend Be Dangerous. So he's usually in a priest robe, a very bloody, disgusting priest robe.
I saw that. I saw a picture of that on Twitter.
Yeah. He also has like a red and white striped sort of ringleader jacket, and then he always is like smeared with makeup and blood, and he gets messy with the freak show stuff. He's one of the only freak shows that actually bleeds profusely. Most sideshows are like, it's magic. my nose, ta-da, no blood. And he's like, just hammer that shit in and bleed all. So he has like a regular costume, and I typically do like a little sort of zombie doll kind of thing. The last few years, I've done more like pretty costumes. What was it? The last couple of years in New Orleans? Oh, like vampire demon. 20s, like I don't know what you're saying, sweetheart. Huh?
Dio.
Ow. We have a friend who makes fangs. So they like really good, like pop on fangs. So yeah, there's a lot of vampires in my life.
Now bringing that up, the reason why I bring that up is because the whole costume thing, and it's going to be kind of a double question. And I thought about this because I saw all the stuff you use and do, and I'm not sure what it's called, but I'm just going to ask you what it is from what I call it. Have you ever used a Dicksaw? Which
a Dicksaw?
Yeah, a Dicksaw.
Like a handheld fucking machine?
Yes, pretty much.
Yes.
When they put the dildo on a saw, and I don't know what it's called, and I just call it a Dicksaw.
It's a fuck saw. I think it's called a fuck saw. I call it a fuck saw. And then also a dildo, because there are dicks on the
dildo. Yes.
So there are different
Scary shit.
handheld mechanical dildo devices. I have a couple of fucking machines, courtesy of Extreme Restraints. Fuck saw somewhere floating around as a dildo. So yeah.
And the reason I asked that is you guys
out
said
for Halloween though. I'm kind of scare some children.
with that, the reason why I said that is that you guys should do a movie, and pretty much you guys dress up with it. And as soon as I saw that, I started sending these guys GIF images. Yes.
I need to charge it.
She has the Dicksaw.
There you go.
Jesus Christ, that's intimidating.
That is extremely intimidating. Our other host, he couldn't make it tonight, and he asked me, he's like, "What's a Dicksaw?" So I kept on finding GIF images, and I was sending them. And one of the ones I saw was a string-powered chainsaw that had a dick on it. And I was like, oh man, I gotta tell Kendra, they need to make a movie where it's basically the Texas Dicksaw Massacre, and you're Leatherface, and you're just chasing all these girls and guys around with a chainsaw with a dick on the end of it. And I'm like, that would be a great online parody movie.
I am not opposed to this idea. I feel like, the chainsaw though would be like a pussy licker, because it so like, I mean, this, like, it's definitely an in-out motion, but chainsaw, like, rotating like this, I'm like, what do you, put, like, little tongues on it or something?
There you go. You put tongues on it, and then you have the dildo, you have the fuck saw, as I'm going to call it the dick saw from this point forward. You have the dick saw, and it's one of those things where you do the movie, and you have a Leatherface-like character, this crazy family, and then when you get to people, they're tied up, and you just open up this big cabinet, and it has all these dick saws, the chain tongue saw, whatever it is.
Implements of doom.
Yeah, and you see, that's the thing. Like, we started to do these podcasts because we're really fucked up individuals, and we need to tell people this. Like, so,
we need to share our fucked upness.
Yeah. And honestly, I've been thinking of the Dicksaw stuff all day, and it was literally the last thing I asked off of our sheet was the Dicksaw stuff, because I was like, oh, I'm talking about Halloween. I'm like talking about the whole Leatherface, do that, that would be awesome to just throw in now with the Halloween talk. Or you could do it.
That's the costume this year. That's the costume. And October's around the corner. Fingers crossed it's not canceled.
Yeah. You know what? I'm still having my Halloween party, and this is the first time I'm ever able to have one on Halloween night, which it's a Saturday night. It's a Saturday night this year. Yeah, it's a Saturday night, and I've always sat there and grown up with movies, Halloween, all that, where kids are trick-or-treating and young people are being stupid and having a party, and everybody gets murdered. And I told my wife, I was like, we need to have a party. She's like, well, can we leave the getting murdered part out of it? I'm like, well, if someone comes in and kills everybody,
I mean, do like a murder mystery party.
Oh, that would be real cool.
Yeah, hire somebody to like play dead, and oh my gosh, who done it?
Yeah, who did this? That would be really cool. And it kind of like Clue. And it'd be like, okay, so it was Matt in the kitchen with the Dicksaw. Imagine when you guys were doing the haunted house. If you would have just came out of nowhere and you had a dildo or a Dicksaw and you just chased somebody. Like, imagine somebody running out of a haunted house screaming with somebody with a Dicksaw just chasing them.
I'm not gonna lie. I have worn a dildo, a rather large dildo, under my costume at the haunted house before, and I did not do this to patrons. I did this to people who worked there because I didn't want to get sued. But to the people who worked there, I'd like come up behind them and like start rubbing my dick on the back of their leg. Or like, yeah, just lift up my skirt slowly, like right here. I did torment a few people with a strap-on dildo.
That's amazing. That would be something cool. Like, could you imagine Chris Jericho gets onto a bus and you're sitting there with that giant dildo? You meet Jericho, you're starstruck, and you're just fucking with everybody on the bus. And all of a sudden, you open the door, you have the dildo on.
Get me oh shit.
I think I'm gonna leave now.
Walk the other way.
Yeah.
Oh, wrong bus.
Or maybe it's the right bus.
Yeah. All right, Kendra, I think what we're going to do, I think we're going to go ahead and let you go and wrap everything up. Thank you for being on the Happy Hour podcast. We really appreciate it. It was fun. We had a ball. We were so looking forward to talking to you. We got to have you back in the future. Maybe if your husband wants to come on, we can talk about the whole, freak show stuff, the sideshow stuff, talk about a little bit of wrestling and all that stuff. We would love to do that.
You want to promote anything?
Is there anything that you want to plug?
Of course, always. Join my site, KendraJames.com. Go buy my superhero clips, my cosplay clips, KendraClips.com. Go look at just random weird shit that I shoot at SexyFetishVideos.com. What else? OnlyFans, OnlyFans.com/KendraJames13. Or just go to my Twitter at KendraJames13 and see it all there, and then go where you need to go to buy stuff.
And once again, Kendra, we thank you for being on the Happy Hour podcast. We will be back next week. Next week's guest is Ego Kill Talent. That's the first band that we're going to have. And we will see you guys next week. Kendra, just one quick thing. Would you be able to say, hey, this is Kendra James. However you want to put fetish model or fetish vixen, however you want, and say you're listening to the Happy Hour podcast. We tend to do those going in and coming out of commercial breaks with all the guests.
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. Whenever you're ready, we're still going.
Hi, this is Kendra James, and you're listening to the Happy Hour podcast.
Awesome. That's it. All right, Kendra, we appreciate it. It's been fun. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Well, thank you for having me. Anytime.
All right, thanks again.
Sure. Bye. Have a good night, guys.
You too.